Hey everyone, Tony D with the final hot take of the evening. So I wanted to do more of a positive hot take. I know it's been a lot of dreary news. Um, the the sort of again politics, but there is some hope I think on the horizon. In that, I think a lot of the elements on the extreme left that the Democratic Party is using at their peril are really starting to cannibalize each other. They're going too far. They're just going too far, and it's causing regular people to rise up. Regular people are rising up to protect the police. They're beginning to realize that BLM is full of Marxists. They they're coming out against people who are just saying extreme things, like Nick Cannon in my previous video. People are speaking out against him. Now, a lot of this is on YouTube, but what you have to understand is the extreme left sort of recruits from the internet. They're not recruiting from the mainstream media, because the mainstream media won't even talk about Antifa, right? They say, oh, it doesn't really exist. Yeah, it exists. You can watch videos of Antifa beating people up and doing all sorts of horrible things and saying that they're Antifa. But one of the things that are happening now in the UK, you've got the Antifa guys who are calling for open revolution. In the States, you've got, the siege of Portland that just keeps going on and on and on. One of the most recent events, there was a restaurant in Dallas. I saw this on Twitter. They got attacked by Black Lives Matter and Antifa. And, the people there were just pissed off. And a guy was filming the whole event. And I was watching the video thinking, oh man, I hope this guy doesn't get attacked. Because it became evident as I'm watching the video that he wasn't one of the guys who had attacked the restaurant. He was like, this is awful, and these people don't know how to express themselves. And I thought, oh man, he's saying some stuff. And then, of course, he turned the camera around and he's black. And so it was like, yeah, what are these BLM guys going to do against him? They're going to attack him? Not that I wouldn't put it past him, but, it's just that everything's turning against these guys. And even worse, and not that this is a good thing, but the fact that this is all over the internet, their own people know this, and this is where it's getting really dark. There's a certain term for people who hurt children. Those kinds of people, because Antifa has no vetting process, and it's just a bunch of random weirdos who get together and tear down statues or whatever. Some of these people who hurt children are in their ranks. One was arrested in a brawl. Another was arrested for possessing pictures of what. And, so this is what happens to these extremist groups. They just, they have no sense. The Marxists have no sense. When you deconstruct everything, anything then becomes, possible or acceptable, including horrible crimes, like I think the kind I'm talking about. So these people have lost it. There's no vetting process. There's no limits. They don't have any control over this situation. So it's, and again, the mainstream media is not even covering this because they're still saying that they don't even exist. But their rank and file hear these stories, and that can't be good for morale. It can't be good for morale to hear a story about how someone in your Antifa society was arrested for these horrible crimes. That can't resonate with everybody. At the end of the day, even these Antifa guys are human, and they're not gonna be down with that. A lot of them are gonna say, hey, we got to have better vetting processes or whatever, and that's going to cause problems within their own ranks. So they're kind of, and they got a real problem with racism too. I mean, Antifa guys have been filmed saying all sorts of racist things. They've been accused of a lot of anti-Semitism, especially since they've taken up the call for the Palestinian cause, which in and of itself isn't anti-Semitic, but they take it further than that. It's not just supporting the Palestinians. They're saying a lot of terrible things about, I can't say them. I think you can imagine what they are. So again, this was a problem with the Labour Party in the UK. They had a real problem with anti-Semitism. And so people on the left side of politics, this is becoming more and more common. You had a split in the women's march group between sort of the regular members and people who were retweeting Louis Farrakhan. Who was it? Chelsea Handler had retweeted some of Farrakhan, and he had said some pretty anti-Semitic stuff, which he hasn't apologized for. So it's not like he's taken it back. So you are seeing the disintegration of the extreme left. Now, it's in its very early process. They still have a lot of momentum behind them. You could see some of their destruction, and history is not their strong suit. They just erase it. So from their perspective, none of that really matters. But from the perspective of getting everybody else angry and against them, that's hurting them a lot. You're creating Trump supporters wherever you go, because these people are connected to the Democratic Party. They're connected to the Democratic Party through Antifa to BLM to the party. I mean, that's all there is to it. And the Democrats have defended Antifa. They've defended the rioting. They allow the marches and nothing else in their states. That's really going to come back to bite them in the ass. So that's one hopeful sign that at least their terrible ideology is even more terrible for them. And the other thing that happened, I stumbled on Twitter, which is a hellscape of leftist extremism, but there was a community, or is a community, of Trump supporters. And I don't say that like I'm a Trump supporter, because I'm a libertarian, but the fact that there are Trump supporters still on Twitter, and they haven't all been banned or something, and they're banding together as a community, which is very important, because the community of the extreme left is a cancel mob. And so when you have, they call each other patriot, when you have patriots banding together to protect each other, you're going to see the silent majority that Trump talks about rise up. And then what are you going to do, mob? It's one thing to be able to mob, a person here and there. It's quite and people in a car or whatever. It's quite another when another mob shows up. Now, there has been instances when Antifa has fought mobs of right-wingers, I guess you would call them, but not regular people, because regular people are going to be even more in number. They're going to be way more in number. They're going to outnumber Antifa by a good amount. And although there has been a few minor altercations between BLM, Antifa, and sort of the regular people doing the Blue Lives Matter or Back the Blue movement, for the most part, it's been quiet, because they're running out of gas, and they're starting to consume themselves, and they're just, it's not going to be fun for them. It's fun for them to run out in the street. We run the streets now. We run the streets now. But then when somebody else comes out, like, you don't run the streets. And once the cops see that they do have support, they're gonna fight back, and they're starting to fight back. Some of these police departments and state governments are now going to the federal government to ask for money, and they're not getting it. So now defunding the police, it seems like a stupid idea all of a sudden, doesn't it? So they're either going to have to suck it up and deal with all that crime while the city goes to hell, or they're going to have to say, well, you know what? I guess we're not going to defund the police today. Yeah, that seems like a stupid idea. So, Bill de Blasio, I think, is ready to go down with New York, though. I just read his Wikipedia entry. His name's not even Bill de Blasio. It's Warren Wilhelm. He is, from rich parents, and changed his name and became basically hardcore socialist and leftist. I mean, he's hardcore left. He was hardcore left when he got elected. So I guess that's one of the reasons he got elected in New York. You get what you deserve, New York. I guess. I hope you'll reconsider your next mayor as someone a little more moderate than communist Bill de Blasio, whose real name is Warren Wilhelm, who comes from privilege. So I think there's a lot of hope out there. So don't despair. But, be ever vigilant. One last thing. If you haven't registered to vote, or you're not sure you're registered, or you got to check on it now. This is the summer. You got months ahead of you. Don't wait until October to go, oh, am I registered to vote? Check on it now, especially if you're in a state like mine, New Jersey. There's going to be shenanigans. The Democrats do not want to lose their voting blocks, especially in the easy states. So check your voting status now, this week. Make a note of it. Make sure you're registered to vote so you can go in there and not vote for Democrats. See you next time.